I call to order this November 14th, 2022 Henderson County Board of Public Education Board meeting. Would all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the presentation of colors by the West Henderson High School Army JROTC. Post colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Again, that was the West Henderson High School Army JROTC under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Randy Lytle. First up, we're going to have the agenda approval. Before I get going, Ms. Caskey, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, Ms. Caskey is joining us from Greensboro from the State School Board Association meeting. So we're going to have to do a voice vote, correct, Mr. Campbell, on all of those?
Actually, the good news is with the state of emergency being discontinued, you do not have to do roll call votes anymore. So you can ask Ms. Caskey for her vote and then just do a voice vote for the entire board as you're accustomed to doing.
Beautiful. All right. The agenda approval, I'll take a motion for that approval.
I
Make-
move.
I make the motion that we approve the agenda for November 14th.
Well, so the change that we're going to be making is going to be to the consent agenda. And so we're going to be pulling something out of the consent agenda and adding it when it gets to consent time. Correct? We can do that for the budget amendment.
Right, are we making the budget amendment a action item? When you say you're pulling something from the consent agenda, normally.
Yeah, I mean, it
it's to
should
make
be,
it an
yes.
action item.
Yeah.
Correct?
You want me to make that motion?
Yeah.
So it could just be it could be to approve the board agenda as amended in one motion.
I move we approve the board agenda as amended.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Caskey, yes or no?
Yes.
All right. Now we got that out of the way. Board member and student recognition. This is going to be Mr. Garrett.
Actually, Dr. Marlowe has the con on this. This is something that is a leak over from last year, so certainly I'm excited to learn about as much about this as y'all are today.
I'm hoping our presenters are. So yes, our DOT Bridge event that we did last year, the students created what they would like to see on the bridges of Henderson County, and they were voted upon, and those awards will be given to this evening. Yes. So
Sorry, he took my notes. Trying to be helpful. I'm Wanda Austin. I'm the Division 14 engineer for NCDOT. And yes, last year, we approached Henderson County Schools and asked if we could do an art contest with the public school kids in Henderson County. We wanted to commemorate, the project in a very special way. We see that, I-26 is a part of Western North Carolina, and it's also the gateway to Western North Carolina in so many ways. The project also extends into Buncombe County to Airport Road, and so, or further than that, but, the airport is our gateway into Western North Carolina. So, with that, the department wanted to present, wanted to do the art contest, and we're proud that, like she said, we're going to be able to have these artwork permanently displayed on the indents, the center indents of the 8 of the bridges along I-26. And so we had over 30 entries, school board members, Secretary of Transportation Eric Boyette, members of my staff at the division. We all had a vote in this, and so it was by popular vote. And so I'm happy to present the winners tonight. The first one, and there's no particular order here, the first one at I-26 and Butler Bridge Road is Sofia Fernandez Rojas. And I'll apologize in advance if I mispronounce somebody's name. And so each of the students will be getting a plaque that has their artwork, and it also has where their name and where it's going to be permanent, the replica is going to be permanently there.
Great job.
The next one is I-26 at US 25, and that is, I should have brought my glasses. Barrett Rains.
That teacher, that student's gotten a,
You want to give it a sleeve?
You want the protective sleeve?
yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention, we're still working on material and getting it and working the contract out with the current contractor. So we expect next fall, hopefully, to be on the bridges.
Awesome.
I-26 at Airport Road is Sophia Thomas.
Great job.
I-26 at US 64 Four Seasons Boulevard is Alexis Donald.
Great job, Alexis.
And I-26 at Naples Road is Ryan Barlett. I-26 at Clear Creek Road is Viesna Mayo.
I'm the art teacher, I didn't see him there.
They did a great job.
I-26 at Brookside Camp is Sophia Beck.
Sooner road for this student.
And then the last one is I-26 at Fanning Bridge is Ashlyn Webb. Okay.
Great job, Ashlyn. Perfect.
And can we get a group picture of all the winners? right
Sure.
quick? Okay. All the winners will come back up.
If all the winners would come on down, we'll take your picture together. Except for Mr. Wilkins.
This way. Face the cameras.
Great job.
Congratulations, guys.
Tell Carl to go. All right. Next up is going to be our program highlight by Miss Virginia Haynes. Welcome. Good evening.
I have an award to present as well. Last year, the Career Academy of Henderson County was awarded the JAG National 5 of 5 Award. And that means they met all 5 goals set by the Jobs for America's graduate program. And I'm happy tonight to present that to Ms. Alton and Arthur Kelly, who is the specialist, and Mr. Garrett, if you'll also join us. And we'll do that first.
I don't know what to do.
Okay, just
Outstanding.
Thank you. There you go. So the Jobs for North Carolina Graduate Program came to Henderson County in 2017 as part of a new program offered in the state and in sponsorship by communities and schools of North Carolina. The program works with juniors and seniors throughout North Carolina who may have some barriers to graduation. Those can be academic, social, economic, personal choice barriers. There's 62 of them. And we have been very fortunate over the past few years to have a tremendous success. And in fact, when we were awarded that award this summer, we've been in existence 5 years, and I was sitting next to the lady from New Jersey who's been in existence 25 years, and she was getting her first award. So I'm super proud, and even though I started as a specialist, I stand before you today as the state director and excited to say we're growing. Originally, there were 7 sites, and now there are 11, and there's soon to be 18. So I think I can operate this clicker. So these are the sites where the Jobs for North Carolina Graduate Program currently exists in North Carolina. Cabarrus County actually has 2 inside their county. As you notice, we're spread out. It takes about 6 hours to drive from that site in Jackson County to that site in Halifax County, but it's a great program. This is the data that shows the graduation rate over the past 5 years. As you can see, we are well above the state average on the graduation rate of the seniors who participate in the program. These are the things that go into that JAG National 5 of 5 Award, which is the graduation rate. And then we follow the seniors for a year after graduation. For this old teacher and former administrator, that's something that I think really needs to happen for every child that graduates. School has been an important part of their life for 13 years. And to hand them a diploma and say, we're done with you, is really just like shutting the door on them. The next thing we follow is the job placement. And then of those jobs, how many are full-time? And then how many are also enrolled in school and post-secondary? And then we're also following post-secondary career credentials for all of our students. These are the Henderson County Career Academy numbers from last year. And I'm going to ask Ms. Alton to just say a word or two about what it means to have the program at her school.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes. So the JAG program is a huge part of our success that we've had the last couple of years at Career Academy, not only because of both of these guys, our teacher, current teacher and former teacher, but the program itself is just awesome. It focuses on our main focus at our school, which is the day after graduation, and they're there to help them for the whole year after, and they follow up with them, and I love that. They've helped with our attendance rate. We've had a positive incline in attendance rate. Our dropout rate has gone down. Our graduation rate has gone up. Our test scores have gone up. I mean, even during COVID, they were so crucial. Helped us with home visits and check-ins, daily check-ins, phone calls to students that weren't making it to school, bringing paper pencil work to them when they didn't have internet or refused to get on the internet sometimes, but would bring the paper pencil work, and it's been so crucial for us to have this program, and so we're very thankful to both of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
These are the data marks for the current graduates that Mr. Kelly are following, and he's already, if they stay employed or stay in school, already met all 4 of the 5 goals. And he's working to get a couple more kids enrolled in the spring, and he'll hit that new further education rate at that time. You all received in your packets a list of the curriculum. You also received a list of the criteria, selection criteria for the students. But then you also received a correlation between the new Portrait of a Graduate from North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and the JAG curriculum. All of our JAG staff served on Superintendent Truitt's panel, the regional panels, to help develop the Portrait of a Graduate, and we are super proud. She even used the word competencies, same thing we do. We're super proud that any student who graduates with JAG can check every competency on the Portrait of a Graduate. These are just some pictures from your local kids as they graduated over the past 5 years. And even though the state rate has not always been 100%, Henderson County's has always been 100%. And that concludes the presentation. I can't say how meaningful the program is, not only for the students, but for us old educators too, to get to see the success of these students. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes. All right, next up, board chair observations. Rich. And I do have some observations today. So, election season always brings an exciting time to any new board with new folks that are coming on, folks that are leaving. It's always kind of a questionable time. Where do we go from here? What does that look like? Because every board every 2 years is different. I want to say thank you to the folks that ran. It is no easy job for everybody that sat up here that's actually run for public office. It's no joke. You're scrutinized for months and months and months, and then for years and years and years if you get on. But it's a very humbling job as well as soon as you sit down in these seats and actually see what these 7 folks actually go through on a day-to-day basis. And so I want to congratulate Jay Egoff for his victory in this latest election, and the 2 other folks, Ms. Sheila Dale and Alyssa Norman, who I don't believe are here today, on their victory, and I look forward to working with them for the next couple of years on this board. But one, Miss Case is not going to be here with us next meeting, and I'm going to miss you dearly. You are an absolute champion for kids. You love these students. You love all of your students that you've had for the 43 years that you taught in Henderson County. You gave your all to this board, and there is nothing more that I could possibly ask for as a chair or as a board member than to sit with someone like you that cared as much as you did. So I've got a very small token of appreciation from all of us here for your service on the Board of Education. And then we'll let you pick out a nice little rocking chair or what the clock, or we got some other nice things that you can pick out. But for you, Ms. Case, here you go. Thank you so much. And I'm going to give everybody a chance to speak in here in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and drone on for a minute. So, Miss Amy Lynn Holt. So I was doing a speech for all of our juniors about a month ago at Blue Ridge Community College, and it's the Career Day. So we invite 1,000 kids, and they all come in, and we have all kind of different careers, and they get to go off and check them all off. And as I got done with my speech, I was like, wow, they really paid attention, but, you know, they're 16 and 17-year-olds. But I got to thinking, those kids were kindergartners when you started. And you've grown up a generation of Henderson County students and have had their best interest at heart sitting behind this desk. And it's, you know what we get on a day-to-day basis, but there is a lot that we get to put out into this world, and you have put a ton out into this world. And just a few of your accomplishments, and these are very high level, I'm not going to dig deep into all of them because there's quite a few, is of course HHS. That was a battle of all battles, and we got it done. Next, Eddyville Elementary, brand new school for Eddyville that deeply needed a school, out there. We fought for that school system, you fought for that school system, and they have a beautiful school to enjoy. IHS, that's another one that you helped. But one I think that's really most important to me, because I've got a kid that's actually doing it this year in 2nd grade, is the swimming program. And I have had family members pass away from drowning, unfortunately. And a lot of times in minority communities, there isn't a lot of swimming pools to go swimming, right? And a lot of times we don't think about that. I think of it as a life skill. Everyone needs to know how to swim. And I would love to be able to expand that program and continue it on and do you proud for the program that you started with the YMCA and letting every 2nd grader be allowed to have the opportunity to get in a pool, learn some life-saving skills that they may need one day. And so you have been stalwart on this board for a very long time, and I don't know how I am now the senior statesman on this board, which is insane. But I owe you a debt of gratitude. We've talked, I couldn't tell you how many millions of times, but thank you so much for your service for these last 12 years through Henderson County Public Schools. So for you, we have the same thing. So at this time, I'd like to invite any other board members to say a few words. I know Mrs. Caskey has a few words to say, so I'll go ahead and let her start.
Thank you. First of all, even though Amy and I have not always agreed on a lot of things, We've both always agreed that we're mama bears, and we always want to do what's best for our kids, and I've always appreciated that in you. Miss Case, you've given over half a century of your life to the kids and parents in this community. Throughout the pandemic, you upheld your oath to try as best as possible to keep our kids in school and safe from a deadly disease. And there's neither any gain nor glory from doing so. And I have about 20,000 emails to prove that. If you didn't vote for Ms. Case to make some sort of statement, a statement was made, and it wasn't about Dot Case. The statement was made about you. I have been proud to sit at this table for the past 2 years with someone who has the heart of a teacher, someone with an unmatched legacy in the education of the children in Henderson County. As I said to you earlier in the week, Dot, what is right is not always popular. And I thank you for your courage to stand by your oath and protect and educate the children of Henderson County. There's a reason why your photo and your name adorn the walls in the Education Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Wow, I don't know how to follow that, Dot, but I'll try. Dot, I haven't known you for all your teaching career, but we go back a long ways from when you were a teacher and the hours and dedication that you gave, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. When a student had Dot Case, they didn't just have them for social studies. She was at ball games and she was at arts events supporting those students during the classroom and outside of the classroom. Henderson County has lost a strong advocate for educators and for children. I just want to let you know how honored and privileged I am to have known you all these years as an educator and most recently as a fellow board member. Godspeed, Dot.
I'll just say something real quick. I remember when Dot and I were running back in 18, and I would always say, vote for Jay Egoff. And they're like, yeah, we're voting for you. And I said, well, we also vote for Dot Case. And then Dot Case would say, vote for Dot. And then they would say, I voted for you, Dot. And then she would say, vote for Jay Egoff. And I mean, we kind of, it was fun. Always, it was fun running with you. It was fun serving with you. And, you've been a great advocate for public schools in Henderson County. So we will truly miss you. And Ms. Holt, I've always told you what you're doing the next couple of years, but you've said no. But we will truly miss you and miss your advocacy for Henderson County Public Schools as well. So, thank you guys both for your service.
Wait a minute, I forgot to mention anything about Amy Lynn. Amy Lynn, how could I forget?
Microphone, please.
Amy Lynn, I'm so sorry. I got teared up with Dot. Wow, 12 years. That's a lifetime. And as Blair says, you've seen a whole group of children begin in first grade and graduate. And your compassion and love for these children just continues to amaze me. You're not done. You may think you are, but you're not. It never leaves your blood, trust me. Once you're a part of this system, educational system, and what you've done for the last 12 years is just amazing. Thank you from both sides of the table, from when I was over there to right here. I appreciate everything, and your leadership has been unbelievable on this board. Thank you.
I've known Dot Case for many, many years, and what a wonderful person she is, and what a wonderful educator she has been throughout the years, and also a board member, Dot. We're not only fellow educators, but we're also close friends. Ms. Holt, I've known you for a couple of years, I think, but we thank you for your service to the county and to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Ladies, the floor is yours. Ms. Case. Just push your microphone on for me, if you would.
I appreciate the privilege of serving on the Board of Education, and I do love education, I do love kids, and I do love teachers and our other employees, and I I will be sad to leave, but the people have spoken. And so, anyway, thank you for the privilege of serving Henderson County Public Schools. And thank you, Amy Lynn, for all you've done for Henderson County Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Case.
So I thought a lot about today, what I would say, and I think I'm sad. I mean, I'm glad, you know, politicians, right? None of us are really politicians, but that's really what we ended up to be. They're kind of like fish. After about 5 days, they start stinking and you need to get rid of them. So I felt like it was my time to roll off and let some fresh new leaders come in and lead our school system. I will not be far. I have given 12 years of my life to this school system. So what I have to say is only about 12 minutes long. No, I'm just kidding. But when I started to sit back this last week and think about it, you know, when I started, I had a son in elementary, a son in middle, and a son in high school. Now all three of those boys have graduated. My daughter wasn't born yet, and now I have a beautiful 10-year-old. So you guys saw her from, you know, when she was just an infant coming in. And there's been a lot of things that we've accomplished since I've been on the board. And I've gone through 4 superintendents. We saved the best for last, didn't we, Mr. Garrett? And a lot of different board members who, it has been a joy really to be on this board and work with different types of people. And I think that's what's most important coming into a board is that, you know, you need people with education background to help you. You need parents, you need, you know, business owners, people who have different, fresh ideas. There was a lot of times that I knew beforehand that my mind was made up and I was going to vote a certain way, but then, you know, I got in here and listened and respected the opinions of my fellow colleagues, and I would change my idea. I think that, you know, that's the biggest thing that has been my takeaway is that you need to listen to your constituents and you need to keep an open mind because you'll change your mind. You know, I owe a debt of gratitude to a lot of people. One of them is Steve Wyatt. You know, Steve is a strange fella. He has a dry sense of humor, and he was the county manager when I became chair, and he just took me under his wing, and I will never forget. And 2018, after Parkland, they had that devastating shooting. The next morning, I texted him and said, you know, can I come in and talk to you? And so I went over there, and I just had this whole speech prepared that, you know, we needed funding for SROs. That was the one thing that was so important to me when I ran for the Board of Education back in 2010, was I wanted an SRO in every school. And I went over there and I went on and on and on. And at one point he said, Amy Lynn, can you just hush and pause a moment so that I can tell you I'm going to get the funding for that, you know? And he loved our county and he loved our students, and he taught me a lot. And I just appreciate all of you and the time that you've given. This last 2 years has been, boy, it's been a ride. Hang on, because the next 2 years hopefully will not be like that and you will enjoy your job. And I really just appreciate everybody in our system, from, you know, our custodians and our bus drivers and our child nutrition staff. They are so important. Our teacher assistants, you know, they are the heart of our school. And our teachers and principals and our central office staff, they have given up so much to the education of these children. And I'm just honored that you guys kept me around for 12 years. And and didn't fire me sooner. And I'm not going anywhere. I will be here. If I think that something is not right, I'll be here to talk at that mic.
We are sure you will.
So thank you guys, and thanks for accepting me for who I am and letting me vent when I needed to, and dragging me along when I needed to be dragged along. I appreciate it. It's been my honor to serve this school district for the past 12 years.
Let's give these ladies a round of applause. All right, I think that will satisfy board member observations unless somebody has something on their mind. I do. Okay.
Last week, I attended Mills River and Edneyville Elementary schools for their veterans program, and they were absolutely wonderful and gave wonderful recognition to our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Good to go? All right. Let Bill get some pictures, and then we'll do some public comments here. First up's going to be Mr. Dennis Justice. We have 3 minutes, sir, once you start. Welcome. Uh-oh. Oh, no, somebody left their glasses. Okay.
I was hoping it was you and not the other lady.
Glasses are found.
Oh my, I know what it's like not to drive with glasses. I'm Dennis Justice from Fletcher. First of all, Godspeed to those who are departing, to members of this board and to incoming members and to the taxpayers. I wanted to talk briefly about facilities, in particular about athletic facilities. You mentioned Edneyville Elementary School and how important that is. It's also important to the pickleball community because we get to play 2 days a week there because you're gracious enough to open up that court, indoor court for that. That's very helpful, especially to active seniors like all of a sudden I'm a senior. In 1987, I was on East Henderson's first soccer team, and where we practice, softball field now sits. And the baseball field was not there in 1987. The scoreboard actually should be replaced or fixed because it looks old now. Bruce Gillum went to school at the same time I did, and he's now the interim director of Parks and Recreation. And they still don't have tennis courts there. And I don't think it's acceptable. This is what, 35 or more years. We still don't have tennis courts at East Henderson. I want to give a shout out, by the way, to the Hendersonville girls tennis team for winning their state championship. I made a suggestion with your softball team at Hendersonville High School for Field 5, could you please make the scoreboard red instead of green? I did this to Parks and Rec. It went nowhere. I'm asking if you could give some sort of shout out and say, since they're looking at redoing the courts at Jackson Park, the tennis courts, can you make them with a red dominant color in honor of Hendersonville's tennis program? I'm asking you to look into sharing more of these facilities that we pay for. Janet Cohn, who's the director, athletic director at UNC Asheville, they're going to get $1.5 million to build a new track at UNCA, and she publicly stated that she wants the track used for the students and for the public. I was just at Dietz Field before I got here, and it's locked. T.C. Robertson and other high schools in Buncombe County, the public has access to those tracks and those fields when school's not in session. The tennis courts at Cane Creek Middle School on the Buncombe side of Fletcher, they have a signage there that says that you can use them when school's not in session. You go to North Henderson and West Henderson, and there's a sign that basically says you can't. We have a 33% adult obesity rate, and if kids leave high school obese, there's a 99% chance they'll be obese the rest of their lives. That is a ticking time bomb to our healthcare system. I'm asking you, if you have not already, to look at fixing the courts at North Henderson and West Henderson, adding some pickleball lines. There's no pickleball programs, but there's a young lady in Anna Lee Waters who's 16 years old. She just won the nationals at pickleball, not for 16 and under. She won the ladies nationals. It's her 20th championship. She won all 3 of her titles. But I would like to see tennis courts have pickleball lines and fix those tennis courts and use our fields more for public use when school's not in session. And I thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is going to be Colby Corn. Welcome, sir. It's your first time on this side of the mic?
I think so. Ladies, I highly recommend the rocking chairs. Highly recommend. A little over 4 years ago, I sat in the same room right there, and for my final time as a member of this board. I left that meeting knowing that my future as an educator in Henderson County was strong and in capable hands. And for the most part, I believe that to still be true. Today, I express my gratitude to two champions of education, Miss Dot Case and Miss Amy Lynn Holt. We know I'm going to cry at some point during this. I could not have handpicked a better person to fill that seat. I vacated on the board with Miss Case, a rock star educator who never forgot her colleagues in the trenches and has always made her decisions with their safety, well-being, and success in mind. Dot, thank you for being a voice for every educator of Henderson County Schools. Your dedication to your colleagues in HCPS will leave a lasting legacy. When I set foot in this boardroom 8 years ago, I met a fiery, blonde, brunette, can't remember what the hair color was at that time, who would become a mentor, supporter, and dear friend. I'm so grateful to know Amy Lynn Holt. You're more than a decade, you're old, Amy, of service to our school system has brought about lasting changes that will be felt for decades to come. From saving outdoor education to new school construction to championing for the students, staff, and parents you are elected to represent, you have truly left your mark. The positive relationship between this board and the other elected bodies of Henderson County is thanks largely in part to your leadership and willingness to serve for the greater good. As we look toward the future, and as Miss Norman and Miss Dale take the oath of office next month, I challenge them with the same words that Melissa Maurer challenged me with at her final board meeting in November of 2014. Leave politics at the door, and remember that you are now stepping in to serve the students and staff of Henderson County Public Schools. Work alongside the other 5 leaders on this board. Let their wisdom, guidance, and experience teach you what is to be a public servant. To the current board and administration, thank you for your continued support and leadership of Henderson County Public Schools. We are better together, and I look forward to what lies ahead. Thank you, ladies, and thank you all.
All right. Next up is consent agenda. We are going to be pulling out item E, the budget amendment. We're going to go ahead and add that to the end of new business. Let me make sure I make my notes. I will accept a motion with that adjustment.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented with item E pulled out into new business.
There a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ms. Caskey, yes or no?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Next up is going to be old business, low performing schools. Mr. Mark Garrett. Yep.
Touching on a summary of what I'll be presenting.
Give one to Chris as well.
Little cheat sheet for you. Hopefully it'll be helpful as we go through and as we move forward on our low-performing schools requirements. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's my pleasure to update you once again on our low-performing schools work that we are currently in the middle of. As we presented in October, we talked about the requirements that we had to go through for the 5 schools that had been designated as low-performing schools. We know that they're not low-performing schools, but we know that's what they have been designated. And we've had a lot of work between that time and tonight. You will have your preliminary view of the plans this evening in more detail when it comes to the school improvement planning part later in the agenda, but wanted to go through what the requirements are and to tell you what our recommendations. So again, boilerplate information. This is just information that we had last time, what designates a low-performing school, and that is a matter of our accountability data. It is 80% performance, 20% growth, and those that receive a school performance grade of a D or F and a met expected or not met expected growth. If a school has been identified as low performing, as provided in this section, the school is not located in a unit that is low performing, the following actions shall be taken. So we are not a low performing district. We just have a couple of schools. So this is what your superintendent shall do. So within 30 days of the identification, and that's where we are tonight, we do have to make one of the 4 recommendations: that we retain the principal, recommend the principal be retained in current position, and a plan of remediation be developed, recommend to the local board the principal be transferred, or proceed under General Statute 115C-325.4 to dismiss or demote. In the box is my clear recommendation. It's to retain the principals at all 5 schools based on where we are presently in their leadership journey and the school improvement planning that is going on. So that is my recommendation. Also, within 30 days, we have to submit to the local Board of Education a preliminary plan for improving both the school performance and the school growth score, including how we will support that at this level. Again, Dr. Marlowe will talk more in detail about these things when we get to the the school improvement planning later in your agenda. But this kind of dovetails very nicely with where we are in November anyway, because all of the school improvement plans were due, and they are in the NC STAR. Those are hot linked to anyone that wants to get in and look at what those plans are that the staff and the administrative team have been working towards since receiving this information. Also, we have to do parental notice, so we will be sending out parent letters. Hot link there are sample parent letters when it shows you on the left what has to be contained in that. We have also a merged letter for those folks that are targeted intervention schools and low performing as well. Those are 3 of the 5 schools: Apple Valley Middle, Edneyville Elementary, and Upward Elementary. So those parent letters will go out. So we have to put that out for all of our stakeholders and our parents. So this is where we are this evening. The preliminary plan is shared this evening with you. Then we post it for the public to view. And we will also share it with the staff members at those 5 schools, the parents of those 5 schools specifically. And it will sit there for 30 days to allow them to give us comments. And then we will take final approval before this board in December. And once we get final approval for those plans, which a big chunk of that again will be tonight when you approve the school improvement plans, then we will upload that to DPI. And then we will submit that final plan, and this action will take place the week following your December meeting. So that is the preliminary plan work to comply with those requirements, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have at this time.
Questions from this board? So I know a lot of work goes into these plans, and like you stated, they will be posted online for folks to go and look at.
Yes, sir.
And it's quite detailed, all the information that they contain and the markers that you have to hit. We know that our students across the nation are behind.
Yes, sir.
To a certain degree because of the last couple of years. And so this is something that we're going to have to be transparent on and be out in front of to make sure that we can get a hold of this. So.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, this is one of those things where we are. The number of low-performing schools that were designated in the state more than doubled from the last time that they did these designations. There are districts now who have low-performing schools that have never had them previously. So this is that kind of dip that we saw. One positive is that our performance measures for last year beat the performance measures for the previous year. They just did not do all of the designations. The state halted the designations for that accountability year due to the pandemic. This year was the first time that they put us back under those pieces. So you saw, again, statewide, a big increase in the schools that were designated as low performing. But a positive, again, for Henderson County Public Schools is you had increased performance from the previous year, and we have no doubt that that will continue. One of the great things I can share with the public as well is these plans were in place and in movement before there was any designation. We took our raw data that we had internally. We used the NC STAR system, which is how you submit these plans to the state of to DPI, the Department of Public Instruction. Anyway, these are all hot linked and available for the public to view for their particular school or a school that they have an interest in. So we want this to be, again, as you said, very transparent, and to get that feedback and to also continue to move forward. Can't thank our educators enough for the job that they have done the last 2 years and continue to do, but we want to make sure that our numbers match the efforts and the quality that we see in those schools when we go around and visit.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm surprised that we have just 5 schools. I mean, with the way the last 2 years went, 2.5 years, I'm surprised. And, I mean, to retain the principals, I mean, that's a no-brainer to me. They're working their fingers to the bone, trying to figure out plans, and I think really the amount of money that we have had and been able to put into summer school the last several years, I think that has really helped a ton. I mean, we just need to remediate. We're going to see it for a couple of years to come, I think, until, our teachers are able to get, they're teaching things that they weren't supposed to teach, that was supposed to be taught 2 years ago or a year ago, but kids missed because they weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, my second grader, this is his first normal school year.
Ever.
So,
And including pre-K
Right.
as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
I'd like to say this board and the public needs to know how hard teachers are working to, all over, whether they're low performing, high performing, or whatever, but they're all glad to be back, and they're glad to have their kids back, and they are working their tails off to get these kids back where they should be. So I think we need to let them know we're supporting those teachers.
Dr. Evans?
Just a quick question. What kind of support does the central office provide or the state provide for low-performing schools in the development of these plans?
So I can give you the central office portion. It's a little more involved. The state involvement is little to none. There are way too many schools identified for them to properly support or even monitor, really, Dr. Revis. And I know that when you've added, again, more than double that number, I would anticipate. One of the good things about being in the West and having the reputation and the kind of quality that you have been able to show as a region in the region is they're not going to be really hot and heavy on Henderson County Public Schools. It's going to be internal, which is where that challenge should be. Dr. Marlowe and the instructional services team have been meeting periodically to look at not only the data before it came out officially, but also to they have assigned a team member from the instructional services team that goes to the school improvement teams at these schools intermittently to make sure that it's not just a one-shot autopsy, but we are part of that active plan, that we are being as proactive as we can. We know that this is a reactive number, but we have the proactive opportunity then to do the right things instructionally for our students. And I feel confident that you're going to see a big bump this year. We're already seeing some good numbers with our feedback that we have looked at, our kind of check-ins that we've been looking at, and some other pieces in our curriculum guides right now. And, it's a good chance for us to refocus as a district and to think about those high leverage things that we need, and not talk about remediation as much as it is acceleration and making sure that we are covering the right things with the students. Our teachers, I can't say enough about what they have burdened and shouldered the past couple of years all across this nation, but specifically here in Henderson County. And the most beautiful thing that I've seen as I've been around schools all year is it feels like school. And it's school. And when school's going on, we know great things are happening for our students. And this is just one measurement, and we're not going to hide behind this number. It is what it is, and these numbers are where they are. But this also doesn't take into account the arts programs that we have going on, the partnerships with the community, with the Flat Rock Playhouse that's going on in these elementary schools, the outside outdoor activities, the Safety Around Water program. All of those things go into developing students that is not measured in a test score. And we have to make sure that we don't just chase one at the expense of the other. And I want to make sure that we do recognize that in some of the real positive aspects of Henderson County Public Schools.
Any other questions? Ms. Caskey?
No, I'm good, thank you.
There's no motion to be taken here, correct?
There is
We will
not.
in
What you
December.
will do is, if you approve the school improvement plans that are coming up later,
Yep.
that fits that second requirement.
Okay.
Then we will put this for approval in December for us to then submit. But right now, we will post this information for public comment, and then we'll come back at the December meeting for action.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I do have one recommendation. You might want to go ahead and take care of the retaining the principal action now. and you can look at the plans in 30 days, but the board also needs to vote on retaining the principals. So it would be appropriate to take that motion now if the board would like to.
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll make that motion to retain the 5 principals that are listed: Caitlin Davis, Dina Wolf, Andrew Von Cannon, Ashley Newcomer, and Michael Gates, as per this plan and as per your recommendation.
I will second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Caskey, yes or no?
Yes.
All right, it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is going to be on old business, 23-24 traditional school calendar. Mr. Carl Taylor. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, board members. Tonight I am bringing to you the school calendar for next school year that you have requested that would be aligned with our community college. We've received feedback from our superintendent's teacher advisory committee, our superintendent's parent advisory committee, as well as our school leaders. And so from that feedback, we've made some adjustments to this proposed calendar that you last saw in October. And so presenting this to you tonight just to look at and review, and then the plan is to bring it to you in December for our first official reading of the calendar. So as we look at this draft calendar that aligns with the community college, again, the start date in August is August 14th. Blue Ridge Community College, their first student day is August 17th, so it aligns there within that week. As we look down into October, that's where the first change takes place based on the feedback that we received from the superintendent's teacher advisory committee. One feedback that we received is that especially after each grading period, it's nice for teachers to have work days to work on finalizing grades for the 9 weeks, preparing for a new 9 weeks, but also that is a time where we have to have some district PD, especially as we look at next fall. Our elementary teachers will still be involved in the letters training. And so now there are 2 work days there in October. One is an optional teacher work day that again gives teachers the opportunity to opt to work, to do those grades, but also if they have the annual leave time, then they could take that day off. But then October 17th would be that district PD day. And again, that changes based on the feedback from the superintendent teacher advisory committee. As we scroll down into December, that is where, again, we see that the first semester would end prior to the Christmas break there in December. So again, aligning with the community college to where that first semester for college classes would end both at our high schools and at the community college as well. So any questions there leading up through December? All right, as we scroll along then.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to bring up the election day issue that we've received a bunch of emails about.
Yeah, so there will be
I know it's been out there.
there will be municipal elections on November 14th. Is it the second
I
Tuesday?
think it's the 7th. Isn't it the
I think it's
7th?
the first Tuesday.
Good question.
Yeah. So
The
that will
7th or
be the 7th of November.
I'm looking it up. It's the 7th.
And so that's the 7th. So that's municipal elections
Yeah.
for Fletcher, for Hendersonville proper. And so
November.
we do use Fletcher Elementary for site, correct?
Yes.
We use Bruce Drysdale,
Yes.
and we use Hendersonville High School.
Yes.
Mills River.
Mills River as well.
So that is something that we should probably think about prior to approving this. And just to let you know, we have sent out some feelers to, and I don't know how quick this can be done, but to county managers to talk about hopefully one day, maybe not even using a school site for elections. There are plenty of other fire stations and churches and everything around now. I know that's a big process with the Board of Elections, but I don't think that we should have to close school for that. I think there are ample places to be able to house that many people. But that's something that we have done.
We have actually, when I was chair, we wrote to the Board of Elections and asked them to please move.
They said no.
Yep. Please move them from our schools. It's a safety issue. And they said no. They
They
declined
said it was
to
a
do that.
cost issue
Yeah.
to mail those folks their new places or.
Well, I guess what the background is that each election site has to have an actual lined phone there. And that was the cost. I mean, I would think that the town of Mills River, the town of Fletcher, Henderson County, city of Hendersonville would pay to put so many phones in at churches or wherever fire stations, wherever it needs to be.
Well, that's something that, well, we're going to have to look at for this next month before we approve this calendar in December. But that is something that Mr. Garrett and myself will definitely take up the hill to try to see if we can avoid that every year, especially in 2024. I know we had always talked about taking that day off, especially on a presidential election. But you're having, I think, 60,000 people voted this year in Henderson County. It's quite a few people, right?
You could do virtual day.
We could figure it out. So thank you, Ms. Caskey, for bringing that up and see if we can figure something out there.
Yes, sir. We can definitely look at it.
But if we do have.
Microphone.
But if we do start school on the 14th, you would have extra room if we had to
Extra room, what do you mean?
cancel school on election day.
You have a little bit more flexibility because you're not boxed in on the start and end date. Yes, sir, Mr. Egoff. One of the tough parts about the municipal election being on the 7th would be you'd be in school on a Monday, out on a Tuesday, in on a Wednesday and Thursday, and then out on Friday because that is Veterans Day and that is mandated that we take that day, as well it should be. So just some things to consider with our families as well.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about, are you done with the second half of school?
I can quickly go through that. There's one, and really the changes there, you look at March, the last calendar that was presented had a spring break that was the traditional third week, so that week of March 18th. But then Easter weekend followed that up, so we'd come back to school for 4 days, and then we had a long weekend scheduled for the Easter holiday as well. In working with Blue Ridge Community College, they adjusted their spring break to that Easter weekend so that we weren't having to have spring break and then time off as well. So that spring break is moved to the final week there in March, and that still aligns with Blue Ridge Community College as well. So that was the other adjustment there. And then as you look at April, there is a day off there, April 26th, again, which is based off of feedback that we received.
I like the fact that spring break isn't in the second week or first week, whatever it is, of March. But also, I'd like you to talk about, because there's some folks that have written some things about the way that this calendar has come about. Talk to us about some of those parent advisory groups, and maybe you can discuss that a little bit more. Some of those teacher advisory groups on why a calendar like this benefits our students more.
So feedback from both the teacher advisory and parent advisory is they really liked the looks of this draft calendar, particularly because of some breaks that they were able to look at throughout the year that you just don't necessarily have the luxury of taking when you're squeezed from both ends like you're on that current cycle with the school calendar law. They also really appreciated the fact that with this flexibility, we could align our 3 calendars a little bit better when you're talking about not just the community college, but also the early college, high school, and also your flex calendar, having a little bit more flexibility there to make sure that with parents who, you may be a parent who has a student on all 3 calendars, that's very possible, and allowing us to try to align some of those dates. Also teacher-wise, because you have some of the flexibility, we were able to plug in some PD and some breaks in there where the last couple of years, our elementary staff have not had any opportunity to do anything outside of letters because of that state mandated training. So there's just a lot of little things that they liked about it. They also liked the fact that you would be ending at the end of May, and they would have all of June and July to take care of those family issues. Now, one of the concerns for this first year, obviously, if you adopt this calendar, would be it would be a shorter summer, a couple of weeks. One of the questions from our teacher advisory was like summer school and kind of some of the summer activities that we had, professional developments that we had. So it would be my ask that the board either use December as your first reading and adopt it in January so that we have as much time as we can to make those adjustments, communicate everything out, not only to our parents, but to our staff when we were looking at our professional development over the summer, some of the school improvement things that happened, and particularly the summer school.
Absolutely. I mean, we are way ahead on normally where we put a calendar out, period, because we wanted to get this out there. And so I think the one thing that we do need to look at is that election day. Let's see what we can do there. If that's starting a day later, maybe the 15th, and then adding a day, I know that really chops up your week there. But I don't think there's any way that we can get those sites moved prior to an election next year, or honestly, even in 2 years. That is going to be a uphill battle, to be for sure. So any other questions or comments on this particular calendar?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a few minutes to get up on my soapbox. I'm glad that the media is here today, because the media happened to write a scathing article about us and our want to adopt a calendar that goes against state law. I am going to go out on a limb and say that every board member here agrees with Dr. Revis and how she feels, and I totally respect her vote. And this is not something we want to do, but I was the person that brought this up, and it was in 2018. So here we are 4.5 years later, now in 2022. This calendar that we're at now was never what's right for children, but what really shocked me was that when my daughter-in-law graduated 6 months early, and she wanted to start community college in January, she could not start it because her classes and her tests were not done. So she had to wait until August. The courses that she was taking, they had 2 start dates, January and August. So she had to wait until August. I then began screaming, like, why are we doing this? You know, it was always a testing issue that wasn't good for kids, but now we are hindering our graduates from starting school if they wanted to go on to a higher education. I then began to work with every elected official that we have been represented by. Tim Moffitt and Jake Johnson have written bills. Chuck Edwards worked with us. He's been working with us for several years and has come up with very intelligent solutions that would fix this calendar so that we could align with the community colleges. And we've done everything that we can, and we are quite frankly, we are told it is one person, it is Phil Berger, who will not change the calendar. He championed this calendar, him and Tom Apodaca, and that he is going out and he has said, if you bring me, as told superintendents, if you bring me a calendar that starts earlier than the Monday closest to the 26th, I'm not going to read it. I am going to put it in the trash. And you may quote me on that. What a shame that one bully down in Raleigh is controlling what's best for our students here in Henderson County and across the states. I'd love the opportunity to sit in the room with Phil Berger and have a discussion on this. Our children do not need to be a slave to the economic advantages that we have in our state. It is a crying shame that he is looking at who pads his elections and his money that he's earning over what's best for our children. And I'm not going to sit quiet by and let it happen. And this is the only thing that we can do by voting against following state law. And it's sad that we're put in this predicament. But I think that if there's roughly 115 school districts, and if we have 100 of them say, we're not following the law, we're doing this, then that's going to be the push that needs to happen. because our representatives have done their job. They've tried to do this, and it is one bully, Phil Berger, down in Raleigh, who will not change his mind. And that's why this board has taken the action to do what we deem is right for the students in our county.
I like last meeting, Amy. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, I'll come. If I need to say that next month, I'll be here too.
I also want to say, though, sorry, I keep forgetting. I also want to say, though, that we have gone as far as contact the State School Board Association, North Carolina School Board Association. We have been contacting, we've been in contact constantly with Senator Edwards. I got this email from one of his assistants. She said, I also wanted to add that the bill language we drafted. So we've been trying to do this correctly. We've been trying to play by the rules, do everything right for over, what?
4 years?
4 years, over 4 years. She said, I also wanted to add that the bill language we drafted was never filed. We had it ready to be filed as soon as the senator got the green light from Senator Lee and Senator Ballard, but that never came to fruition. The bill was shut down, and the senator was told, Senator Edwards, was told under no circumstances would it be even heard or move forward. So I just don't want the public to think that this is a rogue school board that is violating the laws. We are trying to do what is best for the students of Henderson County. And to be portrayed as a rogue board that is breaking laws is not correct. We're trying to do everything right. But at the end of the day, when we put our school board hat on, my job is, and our job is to do the best for the students of Henderson County. And this calendar does that. And I just don't want to feel or hear that I'm some rogue board member, because we're not. We're trying to play by the rules. But at the end of the day, something's got to give, and that's why we're doing this.
Talk about the Camp Association, what we did there, what
Yeah.
you championed there.
We talked to Chuck McGrady, and we said, what's the hangup of starting the middle of August? Well, we heard that the camps, couldn't have a second session. So that's when I said, Dr. Bryant, can I sit in on that meeting? I was a green guy. I mean, I didn't know anything, but I said, can I just sit in on this and so I can hear what's going on? Well, so Chuck came in, and then Dr. Bryant was there, and I just sat in the back and just kind of listened. And Chuck was like, we don't have any problem with starting by the middle of August. We would support that. We know why you want to do it. That would allow us to have 2 sessions. So we don't have any problem with doing that. And Chuck McGrady got behind it. The camps got behind it. I mean, I was just like, well, what's the problem?
The camps wrote us a letter
Yeah.
in support of it.
Yeah. And it's still, I mean, whatever the reason is, what is best for the kids, the children, my children, your children, everybody who has kids, grandkids of our system, what is best for them in their education? So just for the above, all the reasons that we had above about aligning with calendars and having the spring break, having the end of the semester before Christmas, testing before you take 3 weeks off, it just said you could go on for hours talking about why this is beneficial to the students. So that's why we've kind of brought this up and why it's where we are right now.
Carl, being a social studies teacher, I've thought about this, and I know how Kathy feels about this, but I go back and I think, in 1776, 13 colonies were fed up with the British rule and what they were saying, and we were under that British rule, and they went against the rule, went against the law they were under for their own benefit and for mine and your benefit today, because we're under a democracy. We fought a war. We got our freedom from that. And for me, it is like that with this calendar. We have done the right things. We've gone to these people that these guys are talking about, and it's just time for us to do something else if we want the best for education in Henderson County. And, the Patriots wanted the best for to become the United States, and they did. And I just think it's time. It's the best for testing. It's the best for our kids all the way around. And I've been a teacher under this for many years and was not happy with the calendar. But it's time, I think, something is done and we take a stand. So that's why I would vote for it.
All right. Anybody else? Anything else need to be said about this? All right, so we get to talk about this 2 more times. Find out about the election date, see what we can do to fix that issue, and then bring that back to us in December.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, new business, Dr. Shannon Marlowe, school improvement plans.
Evening.
Good evening.
So, as Mr. Garrett shared earlier, we have school improvement plans that have been brought for your approval this evening. And you might remember last year, we had moved all of our schools onto the NC STAR into STAR platform, which is basically a live platform for school improvement planning. It's at no cost to North Carolina schools. And the goal here is that schools address key indicators which we know lead to school improvement. So they go through that process with their school improvement teams and staff at the beginning of the year, select what they think that the most important goals for them that year will be, and then they develop action steps for them. And what is kind of cool about NC STAR is that you can modify those action steps as the year goes along. The benefit to that is if you find out you need a little more scaffolding to get somewhere, you can add that. If you get to a goal sooner, you can go ahead and mark it complete and set a new goal in there. And so they truly are live. In the plans, you will also notice that our schools that were designated as low-performing schools, they were required to have B 1.01, which details the LEA's support and improvement for those schools. So that is also embedded in there. And we'll actually talk just a little bit about that in just a little bit when we talk about the equity update. So the other thing that we really like about this is they are extremely transparent for the community, and they are accessible to the community and anyone who has those guest logins, which we will post on our school district website. So you also had access to them in the PDFs that were included. So the board action requested this evening is approval of these plans. That also includes those schools designated as low performing. It includes their goals and what they are planning to do to move forward and get out of that designation.
Questions? If there are none, I'll accept the motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the Henderson County Board of Education approve the 2022-23 school improvement plans as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ms. Caskey, yes or no on this?
Yes.
All right, it's approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Bernie Sosha, contract approval here.
Yes, sir. Per board policy, any contract over $90,000 must come to you for approval. And as we've talked about for the last couple meetings, we would like to put the lights in at North Henderson High School. And that is the contract that I have for you for this month to approve, so that they can get that done by the end of February and be ready for ball season. It is with Camp Electric, and they are using the TIPS contract to get this done, so we didn't have to go out to bid on our own, which would have delayed it probably into ball season. So that is very good news for the project, and I'll entertain any questions that you have about the contract. It is the $432,000 for the lighting itself, and there was the add-on that was requested to do the wireless remote for the box.
What's the completion date?
It is supposed to be, the idea is to be done by the February 1st.
Of next year?
Yes, 2023.
And the total price right now is $443 and some change?
Yes.
But the only thing that's not included that I have said that does concern me about this, that we need to keep an eye on, is the excavation of the trench and bore rock not included. If it's encountered, they will notify us. What I do ask is that you guys notify us immediately about that, and then what the costs are going to be to actually connect the power to the poles.
Yeah, as soon as we have that number, we will be bringing that as well.
All right, Ms. Case, this is all yours.
I am very much in favor of this, as you all know. I've been pushing this for 4 years. But anyway, I think that's the boys and the girls, right? The baseball and the
Yes, ma'am.
softball
It is
fields.
for both fields.
Yes. Yes.
That was the goal.
All right, any other questions? All right, Ms. Case, would you like to, we got to make a motion on this one.
Yes, I make a motion that we accept the Campbell Electric and the figures that Bernie has given us.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Mrs. Caskey, yes or no?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, yes, yes. It's approved. Thank you. All right, next, let's talk about Berkeley and the Edwards Park Property Exchange. Mr. Garrett, would you like to start this up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Craven. I think I'll start it up, but I know a lot more details are contained with the history of this board and also with Mr. Campbell, who's sitting over here. But this is the summary of the request is very easy. It's a real property exchange agreement between the city of Hendersonville and the Henderson County Board of Public Education for Edwards Park and Berkeley Mills. So we have done a lot of digging into these contracts and agreements and MOUs. Also, we've done an extensive study of the property that the board would be receiving, that would be Berkeley Mills portion of that property, and feel good about making the recommendation that this exchange go through.
Let me go, you want to go first?
Why don't you go first and then I can provide the details.
Perfect. So how this came about many, many, many years ago, with the city needing somewhere to put their putt-putt. So they approached us about the Edwards property, which we have owned for 60, 70 years, something like that. That's where the Boy Scout cabins are and the Girl Scout hut. And we finally came to an agreement where we would exchange that piece of property. And in return, we would receive Berkeley Mills and about 16 acres of property there at Berkeley Mills that contains the historic baseball field, along with $250,000. And part of the thinking behind this is that Hendersonville High School is our only school that doesn't have their own field, that baseball field to play on. They also don't have their own softball field. They don't have their own tennis courts, along with East Henderson doesn't have their own tennis courts. But to kind of give some parity there with our other schools. And so this would give us a facility that we can actually use versus one that's just sitting that we have to mow. And so we've been working on this deal for, 3-4 years or something now, and it's finally coming to fruition. There's also an option to buy 22 additional acres that border this particular property if certain conditions are met down the road. I think this is a great deal for the school system. We are giving up about 2 acres of land and receiving 16 acres of baseball field and $250,000. I think it's going to work out pretty well for us. And so really, that's it. I want to assure folks out there that we know I played on Berkeley Mills Field when I was, I think it was like 13, 14-year-old Babe Ruth baseball back in the day. We know that it's on the historical register. We have no intention whatsoever, as this board currently sits, to do anything that would harm that reputation of that field. We would only want to enhance it, if anything. But this is a great agreement for both the city to get some property they can put their putt-putts and can expand their fire department, and for us to pick up some land to have a baseball field and potentially have more land to build something else there one day. So with that, if there are any other questions, comments, concerns, please put them forth. If not, we'll let Mr. Campbell give us a little bit of the high-level 30,000-foot view of the legal details.
Any questions for the chair?
Yeah.
We've talked about using that property. It will be usable by, for the public, and then the running trail, walking trail.
Yeah, so that would include if we had the whole piece of property. So when we first built this, the baseball fields typically aren't open to the public. You have to be able to rent those fields because there's a lot of work, as Mr. Rhodes can attest, to the pitching mounds and everything else that's on there, and the equipment that we have on those sites. So folks can certainly, like I think it's the Hendersonville Honeycrisps, they rent out our property, will rent out this property now. They can rent it from us. We will certainly entertain travel ball teams or any other teams that want to use it, but they will have to go through the proper steps that everyone else would go through. But yes, we would love for other folks to use the property. It's a baseball field. Let's use it as a baseball field.
So the basic terms, board, quickly, as the chair, Mr. Craven, has already stated, the basic exchange is the 16 acres at Berkeley Park in exchange for Edwards Park and $250,000 to the board. The city will retain a 20-foot easement plus a 10-foot construction easement for the sewer line and water line that are currently out there on the property at Berkeley Park, but the city has agreed not to put any additional utilities into those easements, such as telecommunications or fiber or anything of that nature. And then around the perimeter of the 16 acres, there will be another 30-foot greenway easement. The city will be building that greenway in the future. I think they're collecting funds for that now. They have agreed that that greenway will be part of a cross-country use for the school district and will be open for the public as well. So the greenway and that space will also be public space as well. They can put utilities, including fiber, into those additional easements. From there, there's an option to then purchase the remainder of the 22 acres that is out there if it is not otherwise used within a reasonable time for economic development, something that the city's been working on. That exchange involves this board paying $350,000 plus the 1 acre that is right here behind the central office. Now, that 1 acre, if you declare it surplus, is subject to the statutory requirement that you at least engage in a negotiation with the county. You don't have to transfer it to the county, but you have to negotiate to see if there are terms that you could come up with. The city recognizes that, and that's in the agreement as well. Another 30-foot easement around the 22 acres for greenway space, for cross-country space, for easements and things of that nature that go along with it. We're closing within 30 days. We have looked at the environmental report. We're completing our title search right now. We don't see any issues with the property. There is a pit on the other side of the road that was used as an excavation. It's kind of a quarry area that's now filled with water. The city has that fenced off. There was historically a dumping area when it was used for manufacturing purposes. That's not part of your property. So what you are acquiring and what you have the opportunity to acquire has a clean bill of health as far as the environmental research that we've done, and we'll also do the title search at that point. You're doing cross rights of first refusal. So if the city did not want to operate Putt-Putt anymore, they got to offer it to you. If for some reason you didn't want to continue to operate Berkeley Park, you'd have to offer it to the city. Specifically, like the chair has said, it's important to remember that any athletic fields, including the baseball stadium, would be subject to your policies on community use. But tennis courts will be public that are out there, any tennis court use.
If they are built.
If they are built. And this contract does not require the city to build a greenway, and it doesn't require you to build tennis courts. But it says if you build tennis courts, then they'll be available to the public. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Real quick, the logistics from here is that you are approving tonight this motion that is on your screen to allow us to advertise this for 10 days. We have to do that in the newspaper for 10 days. And then this board will need to come back together at lunchtime on November the 28th for a final approval of the exchange. And we will be completing the title search in between now and when you get together on November 28th. Last thing to mention is this motion does need 2 words added to it. If you look at the second to last line there in the motion, it says that you are allowing the city of Hendersonville to go ahead and begin asbestos abatement on the property. They've got a time schedule to meet to have their facilities ready at Edwards Park. So you're giving them permission to go ahead right now and start the asbestos abatement. It's of no harm to this board, and they agree to indemnify you. We need to say to begin asbestos abatement and demolition activities at Edwards Park. So, Mr. Chair, if somebody could make that motion on the screen and add the words "and demolition" after asbestos abatement, I think that'll cover everything.
I'll knock it out. I think I spent probably the most time on this thing.
I do have one comment.
Yeah, please. Comments, questions, concerns?
I know like it's rolling a boulder uphill. It takes a long time. But I really want to say, you know, as a person that's not really been involved with this, I appreciate the chair going after this. I appreciate the city council for working with us. I appreciate, you know, the county's kind of hovering around, making sure, you know, but it's just, it's just an example of what kind of county we have here. Of the school board, the city council, the county commissioners. I mean, it's just such a good place. This is an example of an agreement that benefits all parties.
It's a win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and it just shows how what happens when people work together. And I just look forward to keeping, these ties open with the other government facilities, and we appreciate, everything that's been done. Mr. Chair, thanks for working hard on this.
Absolutely. Ms. Caskey, do you have anything to add?
I don't. This looks great.
I do have one thing.
Sure.
In this language, I know that we were talking about the field out here was to remain green space.
That's only if we
Right,
acquire the
if-
22 additional
right.
acres, and this board will have that decision to talk about all
I
that.
think it's important to read that.
But it
language
is
now,
that language is
restrictions.
on this, though.
Yeah, so what the language says, and several board members requested that this be added, that if you transfer this acre behind the central office to the city, the restriction will be that it is restricted for use as a park or green space available to the public between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. only, and that the city of Hendersonville may hold supervised events after 7 p.m. only upon advance notice to the superintendent of the Board of Public Education. So it will remain green space. It can't be used after 7 p.m. in the evening unless there's advance notice, and the city supervises that use. So those were some things that board members wanted. Mr. Bridges and others added to the agreement, and they are part of the agreement. Thank you for mentioning that.
Perfect. I just want to make, because I can see our emails dinging now with them
Yeah.
saying, why are you taking away green space?
And that's only if the other 22 acres become
Ours.
available.
Yeah.
And then we would have to offer that to the county first. I mean, there's a whole process.
And
before
it's
that
a
would
true
even get there.
option. So, the board, including the two new board members, will make those decisions if and when the city offers that additional acreage to you.
Anything else? All right. I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the form of agreement entitled Real Property Exchange Agreement. In addition, the board attorney shall prepare a resolution approving the transfer and publish that resolution in Henderson County for 10 days prior to the final board action approving the agreement and closing. Finally, on the same terms outlined in paragraph 12 of the agreement, the board hereby grants to the city of Hendersonville a license and permission to begin asbestos abatement and demolition activities at Edwards Park. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I think Amy beat you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, Ms. Caskey, yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. That's 7-0. Thank you guys very much. All right, moving on. D, budget amendment. Now, this is something I pulled out of consent. It's not huge. We saw this in closed session. I think you guys still have your budget amendment. Bernie, if you wouldn't mind, come up here real quick. We'd like to see you. And then we'll talk about that budget amendment really quick. Yeah. That's okay. Just talk, so the reason I wanted it pulled out is that, we got it in the close, but I didn't really, there was really two amendments that we were making, both from the state side.
There are other pieces
There are other
in there as
pieces.
well, yep. But to your point, the 2 points, the parts that are in the state, and the primary reason this amendment came this month was because we hadn't received all of our allotments at the time the initial budget came in last month. So that was the primary driver between the state and the federal portions of the amendment. And to what specifically those are, there was $249,000 of CTE program support for credential funding that had not yet been received, that came in, and the money to provide bonuses for principals based on growth scores, which we paid last month, was also allotted to us after that. And that's the $268,000 added to the state budget. In addition to that, we had not received our Title I, most of our EC funding, the IPC grant money, and a lot of our ESSER carryover had not yet been given to us from July to operate this year. And so that actually totaled $9.8 million in the federal budget. Those were all things that were anticipated and already planned on. And a lot of it is not just for this year that will last. The ESSER money goes through next year, as well as the IPG is for 3 years. So that is what those dollars are for. And last but not least, super important, is capital outlay. $460,000 for the light project. We only had the $40,000 in the budget originally, and what we had to fund that without having to postpone or cancel any other projects was money from 2 years ago from capital during COVID, where we had sort of put away some dollars for capital reentry if we needed it. We have not needed it, so we are able to utilize those funds to provide money for the lighting and not have to cancel any other projects. So those are the things that are included in the budget amendment.
Perfect. Yeah, we just didn't have that explanation in consent, or in close, so I just wanted to bring that out so everybody understood that. Are there any questions for Mr. Socia based on that? All right, I'll take a motion to approve the budget amendment as presented.
I move that we approve the budget amendment as presented.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ms. Caskey, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Socia.
Thank you.
All right, construction update, Carl Taylor. Capital update, construction update, same thing.
So for tonight's capital update, board members, I'm going to begin with 2 projects that are funded from Henderson County Public Schools, and then I will transition from there to the projects that are funded through the MRTS, which are funded from the county and which are county run projects, okay? So for the first one that is funded by Henderson County Public Schools is the awning repair work at Upward Elementary. As you can see by this photo, that work is complete. Yes, so that was an exciting day last week when they were able to wrap that up last Wednesday. So you can see now it is a complete awning. Students can, for car rider, get out of the vehicle and quickly get underneath the awning when it's inclement weather and get into the building and stay dry in doing so. The next piece to this that we're going to look at is, if you can see in the photo, the posts don't match now. The new posts are white and the old posts are kind of a faded maroon or red color, and so we're going to look at getting a painter in to get all of that to cleaned up and to match as well, so it looks like a finished product now. Okay. The other in-house project is our elementary playground project, and so the update that we've received from our engineers is that they have completed that initial assessment. The site survey work is continuing at this point in time, and the engineers, as the survey work is being finished, are beginning the preliminary designs at those schools. And so once the site surveys are completed, they'll have those designs finished. They'll be able to present those to us so that we can then look at it and give them our stamp of approval, and they can proceed at that point in time. As we look at MRTS, at the end of October, we had a joint facility committee meeting with the county to look at the MRTS budget for this school year. What prompted that conversation is the Upward project. Last month, I presented to you kind of the preliminary budget that the architects had provided for us to use as budgetary numbers. Those numbers exceeded what was allotted in MRTS for that project. So at the joint facility committee meeting, we looked at the total allotted amount of money for the MRTS budget for this year, and then looked at how to reallocate funds so that, again, this board's top priority of Upward Elementary could take place in this fiscal year based on the budget presented to us by the architect. So as you look here at this year's MRTS budget that the Joint Facility Committee agreed upon, that the county commissioners approved at last week's meeting. Upward is the number one priority with that budgeted amount of just over $2 million. Included in it also is West Henderson with a budget of $5 million. That $5 million comes from a $2 million carryover from last year's MRTS, but then also this year we had $3 million budgeted for the bus garage. Again, the preliminary numbers that we have for the bus garage is somewhere 10 to 12 million. And so with 3 million not really being enough to get that project started, that money was reallocated to West Henderson for that renovation and addition project, which we have called Phase 1. The elementary school security camera system project, which is already under contract, is at $700,000, technology $300,000 budgeted for Chromebooks, and then that would leave $165,000 to go towards various paving projects as well. Again, as a reminder, when we think about Upward Elementary and this board's top priority with MRTS, here is the breakdown, again, that the architects had provided that I presented to you last month. Again, for the construction with that cafeteria expansion and the new secure entry going into the office area, just under $2 million. And then the paving projects that would take the old, what we would call the old front where the new awning is at, that would flip to the other side and that would become the new front. That's where the new car rider would take place. And then the new bus lot is what is now the current front side. So for the repaving of both of those. So for the paving, the construction, we can see that's just shy of $2.5 million. So the vision there is what's budgeted. Again, as we go back a slide, just under 2.1, that gets the construction covered in terms of the budget that the architects have provided us. The various paving amount of $165,000 combined with that would take care of what will become the new bus lot. Then as we look at the new front paving project that needs to take place, we would look at that in the next fiscal year so that would then finish up Upward Elementary. So any questions there on the budget or on Upward Elementary?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Are the high school security cameras working now? Are they in? Have they been?
We're close. I've got that in a future slide.
And the
You're getting ahead of me, Miss Case.
bus, I don't have much time left.
Hey, I've got all night, Miss Case.
Okay. Is the bus garage going to be in next year's budget, or where are we moving that to?
I can probably talk a little bit about that. So we went in about 6 months ago, joint facility meeting, maybe when you first started, and found out that was going to be $13 million, where we had currently had that placed because of really excavation, and it's not the best piece of land to put it. So what we've done is we've tasked Carl and his counterpart,
Chris Dodd.
Chris, yes, to really start looking at other pieces of property that can be used to house the bus garage, because a big portion of that was just clearing land, making it flat, making it able to be used. And you're gonna have to add a bridge over a creek, and it was a whole deal. So they are in that process. That has not left our mind. That was third on our list behind Upward, West Henderson, and then the bus garage. That is something that myself and I guess the next folks, Amy was on that joint facility committee meeting, but that is going to be one of the top items that we're going to be checking on. You know, first we wanted to make sure that our school campuses were secure. This is part of that. West money is part of that security. East, maybe fencing is part of that. And then for me, the bus garage has to come next. So it's a hurry up and wait.
And tell us again what we're doing at West.
Yeah.
So there will be some sort of an office expansion that will come as a result of this that creates that 2-point secure entry to where people have to get buzzed into the office and then also would have to be buzzed in to access the rest of the building. So the architects will have to design what that expansion will look like with the space that's available. Also, it will connect some of the buildings. So currently where you leave the office area to access where the cafeteria and the gymnasium and the auditorium are at, we're looking at connecting that to the office space as well. And then some of the back buildings, looking at how we can connect them so that there's not so many disconnected buildings on that campus. That does create some safety concern for us. Okay. So also in this year's budget is the security cameras for the elementary schools. What we were fortunately able to do in last year's budget is include 4 elementary schools as add alternates with the high school project. And so since it came in under budget, those add alternates were approved as part of last year's allotment for the middle and high schools. That was $750,000 that was allotted in last year's MRTS budget. So Bruce Drysdale, Edneyville, and Etowah and Hendersonville Elementary School, they are part of last year's budget, and they will be queued up as soon as the high school and middle school project is complete. So they will be able to go ahead and start pulling wire in Bruce Drysdale, Etowah, and Hendersonville Elementary School and prepare that for camera installation. At Edneyville, they already have cameras. It's just integrating their system to the system that all of our other schools will be on. So that'll all take place, again, once the middle school and high school project is complete. All of our remaining elementary schools is what's approved in this year's $700,000 budget. And so the next step there with that contract being approved is Haynes being able to start pulling wire there as well and preparing them for camera installation.
I have a
I
question.
have a question too. Go ahead.
With those cameras, will our sheriff's department, or, you know, in the city police, will they be able to patch in, for instance, if there was something horrific that happened, like in Texas? Will they be able to patch in and view what's going on, or is that only one-sided for?
So currently, the plan will be that it's in-house and that the SROs have access to it, but then we can explore how we can provide access to the sheriff's department to dispatch or to the local police department as well.
Okay.
So we're exploring it?
Yes, I will work with Mr. Massington, our technology department, as well as with the county on how that can be done.
Are these cameras interior and exterior?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next slide.
Then with the middle and high schools, they're very quickly approaching the final camera installation so that then they can all be connected on our network and be turned on so that our school administrators, our SROs, have access to the cameras and be fully operational at that point in time. So again, the goal there is by the time we go home for our Thanksgiving break, that work is complete. All right, so any questions that you may have?
When did we first do a 10-year plan? And I don't know if we've talked about it, but.
Well, our last one was 2018, but I don't know about before that.
Yeah, so 18?
We did.
haven't had
That was
one.
our first.
Yeah, in
and-
18?
Yeah,
We're
and,
redoing it right now.
right, and that was the reason why we never looked at going beyond that, because we never had the finances, and that was really
Only had $1
championed
million a
by
year.
Bill Lapsley and Rebecca McCall, that has said, okay, we're never gonna catch up. We're always gonna be behind unless we can get a wraparound view of this. So that was the first one that we did.
And we're working on one.
Yeah, we're getting updated prices on things that we can't handle in-house. There's a lot of little things that was on that list. It's a big, thick book. There's a lot of stuff in there, but we're trying to see what we can get done in-house, and then we're having LS3P really update that pricing with Vinoy so that we have more accurate pricing.
And we've had discussions about maybe getting other bids or other ideas on prices. How's that?
Well, Ms. Shugoff, I think the first thing is to make sure that your estimates are solid and reliable estimates, and that's kind of the process we're doing right now, is taking that big 10-year plan. A lot of the work has been done, have them go back through that to appropriately talk about what's capital or what's maintenance, and then figure out then on your estimates and for then to use for the bid process. Yes, sir.
Because during that time, we didn't have the MRTS funds, right? So we were working on $1 million and you had to do all of your things. That's all your hospitalizations and your non-controllables on top of your other paving and roof and whatever else. And that plan, that 10-year facility study, was everything mashed together. They went through every single school and looked at every single tile and everything that was wrong with it. Well, with this new plan, with MRTS and a capital fund that's kind of that are separate, we can tackle them a little bit differently now, and I think more judiciously and in a smarter, more efficient manner. So hopefully, we'll get that back, I think, 4 months or something.
I'm waiting on Maggie to give me a call back on what the time estimate will be.
And that's on the current 10-year plan.
Yeah, that's operating off of the booklet, the big thick booklet that you have, and bringing that up to 2022 specs and pricing.
Because I just know after 4 years, some things might become more important, some things might become less important, some things are going to drop off, some things are going to add on.
Well, so that's up to us.
Right.
What they're gonna show is essentially, okay, you wanna build a new wing onto West, how much is it? 25 million. Oh, you wanna build this, how much does it cost? And so that's essentially, it's everything that was in the 18 packet, just updated pricing, and then it is our job to really start to prioritize what we work on.
And there is something drastically different that's gonna have to be done. I know the commissioners don't wanna hear this, but, I mean, I know they've gotta know it, because that packet, that 10-year packet was like $150 million. And now we're looking at the bus garage that we thought was $3 million is now coming in about 12.
And not the packet, but the stuff inside of that packet.
Yes.
150 million, right?
Yes, yeah, all of the projects that we needed to do. So, I mean, you're thinking, you know, it's an easy $500 million now, because the prices have escalated so much. Now, hopefully, maybe one side of this recession will be that prices maybe come down. You know, I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty daunting, because when we got those prices in and they were $150 million, I was scared to take them across the street. They're never going to approve that. And they worked it out with the add in the extra cents on to the tax rate. I guess they didn't take it away. It wasn't an added, but like consumers weren't seeing it in their pocket, but they weren't getting a break, and it was coming directly to us and to the college.
I'm glad we're doing this. You know, it is the end of the year. You know, there are going to become budgets from everybody coming up in a few months. But we just need to make sure we don't fall back into that $1 million a year schedule. And that's almost what it's going to be like with all these elevated costs. You know, we just need to make sure we're transparent with the county commissioners. And if you know, we have to find a way to raise more money if more money is needed, which it will be. We just don't want to make sure we stop the progress that we've been making with our school system. Because like I said, it's a great place to have a school system and everybody working together. We just need to keep, you know, being clear and transparent with everybody and keep the progress moving.
Yeah, and the joint facility committee, you know, that's going to be imperative that you guys keep that up.
Oh, we love to talk when he's sitting up here. Like, we love
Sorry.
I make a great spectator.
Is it?
It's the redo of how many kids we've got where in the county. When's that supposed to be done?
So the breakdown for our reassignments. So we're finalizing that data, and so hopefully we can have that available before the December board meeting.
Did we not rehire whoever we were? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. What we did is we re-engaged with the North Carolina State group that did your initial population study. They are updating that, putting in the new kind of designations for housing that have been approved since you did that study. So that should be sometime in the spring that we have that back for you.
Spring.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they have us on their schedule for the spring, and then they say that it should be ready to present to the board by June. Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Any other questions about construction or capital? Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Equity update, Dr. Shannon Marlowe. Welcome back.
Thank you. All right, so when we talk about school improvement planning, which we have already talked about multiple times this evening, the goal of having a good plan is that you're removing barriers for students and making sure that all of our students are successful. So We're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. So we have been using, as I mentioned, the platform, the NC Star IndoStar platform. And why do we like that? It's a live document. We can change it throughout the year if we find that we have new data that gives us new information about how students are doing in particular areas. Or if there are changes to a school that necessitate something change in an action step or a goal, we can make those changes. It also provides teacher leader opportunities within the school, starts good school improvement discussions, and everybody can access it. It is not a plan that sits on a shelf. You revisit it every single month, so it truly is live. And it also focuses on key improvement strategies, which, as I mentioned earlier, are driven by research. It is also driven by the school's data, how students are doing. Every time schools review their data, they can review their action steps, and they can make changes that need to be changed. So it provides ongoing review of goals and actions that are happening within a school and the discussions that follow with those, which means then we can be really responsive to what kids need, which is our goal. So how do you get there? Well, IndoStar is the website, and there are links on our own website for each school. There are guest usernames, guest logins. You just drop them right in those little pictures right up there. And then you'll come to an overview page like this, which has lots of directions in it. It tells the school's values for the school system. It talks about the core values for schools, their mission, their vision. All of that is in there. The most important part that you're probably going to be looking for is that comprehensive school plan report, but you'll find there also every time schools meet, their agendas and who showed up for those meetings are also in there. You can also check out who's on the team, and includes anybody in the community as a representative for their parent, and the support that they get from the central office as well. So when you go in there and you actually click on that progress report, that right there will tell you, you're going to get a page that looks like that. The first blue line up there is the goal that they are working on. So for example, if you are designated as a low-performing school, that line up there might say B 1.01. As I mentioned earlier, that's one that is required. That one seems a little bit unusual for schools because it says that the LEA is going to provide support for them. But that is something that we are doing for those schools. We do it for all of our schools. It's going to look a little bit different for schools designated as low-performing. Title I schools also use comprehensive needs assessments that are embedded in this to drive their goal development. So those, whichever goals they choose maybe is part of that discussion that they've had around the needs assessment. But in terms of the low-performing school designations, we did provide some information for those schools specifically that not only do they have that support from us, but some of their action steps will include things like having a central office liaison, which we do for everybody, but they're going to get extra support from those folks. They also, in the low-performing school designations, for at-risk remediation funds, they were funded at a higher per pupil ratio than other schools, so they could provide additional tutoring for those kids or whatever needs that school might have. It could be that maybe they need some professional development for teachers to address additional needs that are happening. And then again, the ongoing support. And schools were also able to add other things because sometimes their partner does extra things for them, and they can include that as part of what they do that's more school specific. So when you look at this, the first thing, the white line up there that says initial assessment, where the red arrow is, that's where they are. They actually have to say, in this goal, this is where we are. This is where we feel like we are currently performing. Then the next one down, which is the green arrow, that's where we want to be. So how do we get there? This is how they get there. This is where they add their action steps. And you can see, probably not clearly because there's lots of them there, so they're very small, but they continue to add them through the years. So this is something that these schools have been working on. This specific one is about instruction. It's not unusual that they have that one in there multiple years in a row, but they will continue to put those in as action steps as they attain them. They put the date in there, and then they can develop new action steps. So if it's one that doesn't have a clear date on it within the program, it means they've not finished it. It's one that they are working on. So as they run through, they can scaffold by adding new ones or marking off the ones that they've achieved, and that's how they get there. That fully met is how they get the goals and meet the needs of their students. And the reason that we really like this process is the best practices come up all year long. They discuss these in school improvement team meetings. Again, it doesn't sit on a shelf. It's not a plan that they develop at the beginning of the year and then come back later at the end of the year to say, hey, how'd we do? They look at it every month. Teacher leaders take ownership of things that are assigned to them so they can have ongoing conversations about them. It informs all the stakeholders of how they're doing. Every time they have a meeting, they update the minutes. So anybody can go in and see, like, how did they do? What did they do this month? It also provides for transition. So if you have a transition in leadership, they can go back and they can check, and it's live so that they can look and see what happened in those meetings. And again, the goal is so that throughout the year, we can better meet the needs of all students.
This is so much more efficient than those 90-page reports that we would read through during this time of year. And like you said, no, sir. And then they get sat on the shelf, and you did a lot of that work. You did a lot of that work. This is so much better.
Yep.
And then everybody can see it. Everybody.
That's what I like
Yes.
is that, you know, because parents are going to have a lot of questions, and then they can see it's drilled down to specific goals, and then they can see, was it met? And this is awesome.
I will say the PDFs that we had pulled for you, there may be things in there that might have changed a little bit. They may have already met again and had to change a date. So it's a little weird to pull a PDF because this is not static. It's flexible. Every time they meet, they can say, is it working? If it's not, what do we need to do? And that's what we really
Yeah, living documents are actually help as opposed to just printing 90 pages.
agreed.
Well, this takes the school improvement process from compliance to growth. You know, it gives you a chance to grow in real time, which I'm very happy. It's really hard to get to that point. A lot of input on the front end. Really applaud all of our staff and folks who put this work in on the front end. But once you're in there, you're able to keep up with it much, much better.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Child Care Services update, Mr. Rhodes. I hadn't heard from you today, right? Thank you. Mr. Social, financial statements.
All right, I'll piggyback off of that and talk about some more money. Two reports, local current expense and other restricted funds through October 31. Revenues have totaled $13 million, up $533,000 from last year at this point. Our expenditures also up $870,000 from last year, totaling $8.7 million. Both of those are as projected for this point in the year. We knew our salaries were going to be higher, and they're showing just exactly what we thought. The other report is for the enterprise fund as of September 30th. Child nutrition for the first quarter has received revenues of $1.4 million and also made expenditures of $1.4 million with just a slight deficit of $8,644 through the first quarter. And just as a point of information I put on there for you, this is our first period of normal operation since the third quarter of the 1920 fiscal year. So Robert's doing a really good job of trying to get back on track with what normal operations are going to look like, and actually in a better position than we were last year. So
tell me about, have we got all of the, not all, but have we got our parents to fill out the forms to get the free and reduced lunch? Is that helping? Are we doing our second breakfast, or what is it called?
Yeah, second chance.
Second chance breakfast?
So we're working a little bit on second chance breakfast. We are trying to get the any opportunity we can. We're sending home the free and reduced meals. We have online. We have people who are available to help people to fill them out online. I don't know that we can ever encourage people enough, especially because I don't think they realize how important that is, not only for child nutrition, but for the district as a whole, that those numbers feed a lot of other formulas that we have, particularly our Title I funding. So we do ask, I know the principals do send out all calls. I believe they are all doing it. to encourage people to get them sent in. I don't know what our percentage is for completion of those forms yet for this year. I can check with Robert, find out how good we're doing.
And this is only a month worth of data, correct, for the enterprise funds, essentially?
Three, this is a quarter.
Yeah, but we weren't in school. July,
Oh, I
August.
apologize. Yes, sir. That is only really covering, yeah.
So, child nutrition is my new childcare, to be perfectly honest, because the numbers are way bigger. And that is something, I mean, if you look at the net loss, if you look at your spread there, even as a loss or a gain of $8,600 on 1.4 million, that's not very much.
Correct.
And so we need to keep Mr. Rolf, he won a national award, and hopefully he can keep our child nutrition program solvent and doing well.
Yeah, we're going to keep a very close eye on our sales so that we can see now that we're back in that mode to see if our prices that we went up to are going to be sufficient, or if we have to do this again next year to see where we stand. Because like you said, we don't want to end up on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody recall what we went up? It wasn't very much.
Oh, it was significant in the school lunch sense. I think it was like 65 cents or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we probably will need to go up another 50 next year.
There were some complaints online that I saw. I didn't see anything really come across my email or anything, but listen, food's more expensive.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I bought a pound of sliced roast beef the other day, and it was $19
Yeah.
for 1 pound of sandwich meat. Parents cannot fix lunch at home for what they pay for lunch. And we.
$3.15, is it?
For lunches.
For lunch. Then there's a mega lunch too, or something.
Right.
$3.15 for the normal lunch?
It wasn't 325, was it?
Well, if it's three something,
It was two something and it went up to.
you can't do anything today for three something.
No, no. I mean, you buy, food prices are crazy.
That's just my thing here. We need to make
Yep.
sure that we are watching this enterprise fund. Childcare, Mr. Scott Rhodes, hats off to you. You handle childcare like a boss, and I'm not really concerned about that one right now, but child nutrition is the one that we need to watch because the numbers are so much more significant. That kids are not, which I believe the government should have done, is fed every single kid that walks through that door. That's not happening anymore. And so now we have to watch these dollars pretty closely so that, we're not subsidizing the child nutrition program.
But are we waiting for a whole year?
For what?
To raise the money. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't do that in the middle of school year.
Well, I think we need to wait and get a couple more months of data.
Absolutely. This is literally 5 weeks, I believe. You got the last week of August through September 30th. It's 5 weeks of data. So,
And we have to know what kind of fund balance they have in order to know, can we make it through the year without raising that?
I think we can definitely make it through the year. That's not what my concern is. But I think if you don't keep a handle on this and the supply chain and increase in operational costs, really quickly, those numbers can get out of hand. Really quickly.
Particularly with rising food costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean, it was years before we've raised that. I mean, we've only raised lunch prices maybe 3 times since
Twice
I've
in
been-
my
Right,
tenure.
since I've been on the board. And I'm feeling a lot of, I think Mr. Rhodes he's pretty set. He can.
I know, we're about to
he
get
can work on this,
We're
yeah.
about to get rid of that and go put him on child nutrition. Is that what you're saying?
I think he can be pretty successful at helping us with that.
We're giving the wrong person the credit. No, but you can look at, we have raised prices. Our full pay lunch right now is $3.50 for K-5. It's $3.75 for 612, and the mega meals are $4. And so also working with Mr. Rolfe, what I would say is that he is very focused on making sure that we offer that second chance breakfast. Not as much from a monetary standpoint as it's just the right thing to do for kids. Because again, we know students learn best when they're not coming to school hungry. But there is also that issue, again, for personnel. And so that is the give and take, and what we're finding right now is making sure they're trying to get people hired so he can run that second chance breakfast at all those schools. But we will definitely keep an eye on what's going on financially. That's what we do. And if we see issues, we will address them. I can assure you of that.
But it's not so easy if you've got 4 kids and they're $3.15 a meal. You know, some of these people have a hard time with that, so it's not as cheap as we think it is if you've got several kids. And, you know, high school, $3.75, that's times 4, if you had 4 kids. So, you know, there's one, I think one high school is who am I talking to? 300, there's 300 less eating now than was during the COVID when the federal government was paying for it.
That's why high school students tend not to want to have their parents fill out those
Right.
free and reduced lunch forms. There's a stigma when you go through the lunch line. That
Everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody knows.
But I don't get that. They're all punching their lunch number in. Nobody knows.
They know.
Every kid knows.
Yes.
How
I
do
mean,
they
I
know?
had free lunch my whole life, and every single person knows. Every single person, but I didn't care. I was hungry. I was going to eat. But there is a stigma with it. I know there were people that did not eat because, you know, of the stigma that was attached to it. But
Well, then how can we fix that?
you feed everybody.
Okay, but
Yeah, but that's $13 million.
how do people find out?
I don't know. I don't know.
Kids are
how
very
they know.
resourceful. They find out about all kind of things.
I don't see how can you have to punch a number in whether you're getting it free or whether mama's putting money on your account. It's not like it was back in the day.
So a lot of the kids, like, let's say that you have money on your account and you want a ice cream or you want a Rice Krispie treat. Well, you can't get it if you're on free and reduced, right? So you go punch your number in. You go punch your number in and you can go get your pizza if you want some pizza. But if you have to have the meal, you go through that line for the regular meal, right? And then if you want something extra, another sandwich, another whatever, because, you know, it's not a lot for a lot of those kids that are
Right.
getting ready to go out and practice football for 3 hours or go play soccer or volleyball or whatever the case may be. Listen, there are ways to know.
So is
Without
there
a doubt.
anything that we can do to?
The only thing, we cannot pay for that. We do not have the money. There's no, I mean, how much is it a year if we fully funded child nutrition? 13 million, 10 million?
No, yeah, I'm
neighborhood?
not talking about that.
So it's the USDA and petitioning our government to, I mean, every kid should be able to be afforded a free meal by coming to school for breakfast and for lunch.
Well, I'm talking about how can we make it more private how can we get more free and reduced filled out how can we make it more private so people don't know so we get more filled out?
Put it on an app.
What's that?
Put it on an app.
Yeah, you can do it online now.
That's your charge. Figure out how we can get more people, Mr. Garrett, to fill out those forms.
Yeah, because I think if we get the free and reduced filled out, we can get people.
There's no child in our community should be going hungry.
No, ever. Not in this community.
Yes.
And there is the thing at the end of the year where people can donate money for those kids that have run up because those lunchroom ladies cannot just say, no kid, you don't get your lunch today. You know, they're so caring and whatever. And so there is, you know, where people can donate from our community to help those kids who cannot afford.
I actually have 3 clients that actually pick a school and pay for theirs.
Okay? Yes.
And there are a lot of very giving people in this community, but that's not the answer for this.
No, that's not the answer, but I'm just saying the community out there.
The community will help. If the community knows, the community
They
will
need to
help in
know
this
about it,
situation. If a kid needs food and they don't have money in their account, we are going to feed them. There will not, I will lose it if I ever hear that is not the case in Henderson County.
We are feeding kids.
Absolutely, right? I know that's not an
It used to
issue.
be that they would get a Sun Butter sandwich, but since
No.
I've been on the
No.
board, that's
They
been
get a meal.
changed. They get a hot meal.
But this is something that's going to come up and you know, we'll see. Let's check the numbers out. You know, we'll see it again next quarter, so we'll see it at the end of the year or January, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, and I will say, if anything does come up in the meantime,
Yeah.
we won't wait for the quarter.
Well, sure. I
let you
mean, if
know,
you see
just-
us running a $100,000 deficit, it's time it's time to start talking about it. Anything else on enterprise funds or?
Just real quick, I will talk about childcare.
Yeah, okay.
Just so that you know, I mean, Scott already did, but for the quarter, our revenue is at $681,000. Expenditures were just $319,000. I know that is a large gain. That is primarily due to a balanced budget on top of the COVID money that they are receiving, and we have not yet been spending the money
Just
for the
accounting
playgrounds.
numbers
So
on that one.
the playgrounds are going to start hitting in the next quarter, so we'll be spending a lot more money in childcare at that point.
Questions,
That's all I
comments, concerns for Mr. Socia? All right, general operations, Mr. Garrett,
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
sir.
Pleasure to share general operations this evening. Wanted to share real quickly some fall athletic success, just to make sure the public is aware, and we give a little credit where credit's due. Our Hendersonville High women's tennis team earned their way to the NCHSAA 2A dual team championship, and that is 4 in a row. 4. So if you're a senior on the tennis team, you ended the year with a victory 4 straight times. That is rare air. I don't care who you are or where you are. So certainly congratulations to those ladies for bringing home those titles. In related, Eliza Perry and Ramsey Ross captured their second straight doubles state championship. So when you've got the back-to-back doubles state champions on your team out of 6, that's a pretty good chance that you'll win 4 in a row. So certainly congratulate them. West men's and women's cross-country teams both qualified for the 3A cross-country state championship. The gentlemen came in 9th and the ladies came in 2nd. And I think we had the 2nd and 3rd number individual, 2nd place and 3rd place. And then Hendersonville High women's cross-country team also qualified for the 2A state championship. West and Hendersonville High School both were playoff football teams this year. And West Henderson is still playing.
Still playing some football.
They're hosting this Friday night. They are undefeated. So I think this is the first time since 1984 they have made it this far, and they have never made it to the next level. So we'll see how well they do. And then all 4 of our soccer teams, men's soccer program teams, made it to the playoffs this year. Wanted to share the Wall of Honor. I certainly want to thank our veterans, as we always take time right now to reflect on those men and women who have served us so well, and a lot of those continue to serve us here in the district. So scrolling before you are our folks who are Henderson County Public Schools educators and part of our educational family who are currently veterans as well. So we certainly want to have that Wall of Honor and thank Kimbrell Airwood for putting that Wall of Honor up. Our resource officer in the back, thank you for your service, sir. I know you were a veteran as well. I saw I saw a different picture. I'm sorry. So thank you for your service here for us tonight. Then, so you're a veteran of law enforcement. We thank you for that. But certainly that Wall of Honor is up on our website, and we'll continue to scroll, and we thank those folks. Coming up dates, November 14th through 18th is American Education Week. We have Superintendent Parent Advisory on the 17th. We'll show them this calendar once again and let them look at it. Thanksgiving break for all students, the 23rd to the 25th of November. December 7th is when our elected board members will be sworn in at the historic courthouse at 9 a.m. I always like to tease, you get sworn in and then you get sworn at. Also on December 7th, for all of our board members, we'll have the yearly ethics training with the gentleman sitting to our left over there at 10 o'clock in the central office here in room 1A. Superintendent Teacher Advisory Council meets on December the 8th. And on December 12th, we will have our regular December meeting at 4 o'clock here. And winter weather information, just so folks understand, there might be a little bit spitting around tonight, so we will be out at 3:30 in the morning if anybody wants to jump up and join us, checking those surfaces. Looks like we're going to have some freeze maybe on some railings and some trees, but the weather should be a little too warm on the roads, but we will be out looking. Just wanted to kind of share that we are hitting that season. And we will make those decisions as early as we can and communicate those as early as we possibly can when we're confident in the decision that can be made. But like to remind folks at the beginning of every winter in the mountains that we have a wide and varied landscape across this county, and 1 or 2 degrees makes all the difference, as does 100 or 200 feet of elevation. So just bear with us and remember that your front door may look one way, but the rest of the county may look totally different. So certainly bear with us as we get out. I want to thank our transportation folks who are going to be the ones out on the road And again, 3:30 to 4 a.m. If you are ever bored, we can probably assign you a part of the county and you can get out and search with us. But those decisions will be made based on safety. Two things to keep in mind: we have our buses on the roads that are carrying students, and we also have student drivers. So I like to make that clear as well when we make those decisions. It's not always about the bus. A lot of times it's about our students who are commuting in the mornings. And we like to get visibility when we can when there's questionable weather. So just a couple of things to look forward to as we hit cold weather tonight. Reminded me of the cold weather that we will be dealing with. And that's my observations this month. Thank you.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much. We will miss you guys tremendously. And if we mess up, I expect y'all to be at that podium. All right? I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Go ahead. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Have a good night.